Menzies has what's arguably one of the most unpleasant climates of any town in WA. It has some of the lowest of low temperatures and the highest of highs. There isn't a great deal in the town to attract visitors, but there are a few interesting buildings and some interesting attractions surrounding the town that make visiting worthwhile. Nearby Lake Ballard features 51 metal sculptures created by artist Antony Gormley. The sculptures were apparently inspired by various residents of the town. There is a campsite next to the lake, so you can stay overnight after taking your time exploring the lake and its islands. The lake is only really a lake after there have been sufficient rains. Most of the time, it's just a dry clay pan. The arrival of rains from Cyclone Bobby in 1995 turned the usually dry Lake Ballard into an ideal breeding ground for 10,000 banded stilts. The birds set up house, had their chicks, and then one day just flew off, never to return. How they knew the rains had reached the lake remains one of nature's mysteries. There's a large caravan park in town for those who don't want to or cannot camp in more remote campsites. Menzies was first settled in 1894 and declared a municipality in December 1895. And although it was once quite a large town, it's now declined to a small settlement. The town was named after Leslie Robert Menzies, who went prospecting in the area with John MacDonald in 1894. Robert Leslie Menzies is sometimes quoted as the source of the name, but that's incorrect. Menzies was an American who spent time looking for gold in America, Africa, New Zealand and Australia. J.J. Brown, C. Kirby and C. Jackman found gold 20 miles north of Gungari. They dug a shaft 6 feet deep and found a reef bearing visible gold. Menzies and MacDonald, with their Aboriginal tracker Jimmy, and Cumbra, an Afghan camel driver, were prospecting when Menzies met Brown at Gungari. Menzies agreed to inspect the shaft with the idea of purchasing it if it proved suitable. Menzies travelled to a rock soak, 18 miles east of Gungari, to replenish his water supply. On the return trip, he strayed too far west and missed Brown's camp. His poor navigation turned out to be a good thing, as he stumbled across a rich alluvial gold deposit. On October 1, 1894, Menzies registered lease number 1380 in the name of L.R. Menzies and Sir George Shenton, and lease 1381 for L.R. Menzies and R.F. Scholl. These were to become the Lady Shenton and Florence mines, and turned out to be very successful. A series of other mines also operated nearby. Although the town was named after Menzies, the first gold in the area was actually found by James Speakman in 1891. Speakman reported the find, but for whatever reason did not return to the area. In the book 20th Century Impressions of WA, written in 1901, the following was written about Menzies. The news of the Menzies gold discovery speedily attracted people to the spot, but the earlier comers found themselves very soon in difficulties. Food supplies ran out, water was not obtainable in any quantity, and consequently much hardship had to be endured. The Lady Shenton mine was named after the wife of a major investor, George Shenton, and by 1903 it had produced 132,000 ounces of gold. By 1910, almost all mining had come to a halt in the area as the gold-bearing ore ran out. Earlier in 1896, a typhoid outbreak killed 28 people, and in the following 10 years, it's believed that over 500 people died from just this one cause. The local cemetery is one of the larger ones in the goldfields, and reading the inscriptions on the headstones, many of which are actually made of metal, not stone, gives an insight into the hardships of the early years. At its peak, the town had a population of about 10,000 people. There were 13 hotels and 2 breweries. That's a little bit difficult to imagine these days when you look at the tiny settlement that remains. Although the gold ran out quickly, the town was able to hold on longer than most in the area, as the railway ended there. It became a staging point and supply depot for other small centres further out. The local town hall used to have a clock tower with no clock. The original clock was ordered from England, but the ship bringing it out, the Orizaba, sank near Rottnest, and no replacement clock was ever ordered. That was until the year 2000, when one was finally put in place in time for the New Year celebrations. Perhaps keeping the clock tower empty may have been slightly more interesting, as it would have kept the story alive. A sizable amount of the cargo of the ship had been salvaged, but the clock was never located. It's just possible that the Menzies clock was sold off to another town and has been adorning the clock tower in another part of the state all these years.